Hi, I'm Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to Pickle Pie's Sew Me a Sign. I'm so excited to be here with y'all doing this. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do our project, which is Sew Me a Sign by Pickle Pie, and these are the coolest little signs. They're all done in the hoop, and with summer here, these are invaluable. I use those big 2-gallon jars, and I'll put Jamaica, I'll put lemonade, I'll put tea. We've got people over, and I always have to put a sign on them. It is so cool having these Sew Me a signs. And you can make them to fit a 5x7 hoop or all the way up to a large sign in your 9.5 by 9.5 hoop. So if you want to put a sign on the door, go around back, or you want to put welcome. She's got several different sayings that you can stitch out. Now, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to sew it out as she has recommended. However, I am going to use blackboard fabric because I want to be able to write with a liquid chalk marker on them and change them. So I like having a stack of blank designs as well. So let's go ahead and let's look at our software and see how we would deal with this. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share it with my Floriani software. There we go. So here we are with this. Now, this is the design. Now, I picked the one that says, bless our home. She has several with different welcome. She's got several different sayings that you can use and stitch them out just as they are, and they are beautiful. But what I wanted to do was, instead of using just a contrasting fabric in here like an applique, I want to use blackboard fabric. So there's going to be a couple things I need to do. Now, the first thing I need to do is I need to grab the lettering, and I am simply going to delete it. So now I've removed the lettering, so there's nothing there. Now, the next thing I like to do, in this case, we're going to stitch it out as per her instructions. But I want to give you just a couple of little tips of easy things to do. Now, with this blackboard fabric, any fabric, cutting this shape perfectly is going to be a little difficult because what they do is you put out a piece that's bigger, then it's going to stitch it down right on top of the placement line, and then you're going to trim around it, leaving a 1/4 of an inch around the edge. Then when you do the outside, you're going to leave about a 1/2 inch around the edge. So those are her instructions. Sometimes I like things pre-cut. Now, one thing I want to pre-cut is definitely my chalkboard fabric. So let me show you how to make cut files out of this. I'm going to left mouse click. I'm going to right mouse click copy. I'm going to open a new piece of paper, and I'm going to paste. Now, here's the issue. This is the placement line, correct? But the problem is we're going to place a bigger piece of chalkboard fabric, and then we're just going to raw edge trim. Well, if I want to pre-cut it, the trick is I'm going to have to make it a little bigger. Now, I can't just make this bigger and it fit right inside because it's got odd angles. So let me show you the trick. I'm going to take this, because this is the actual size of the applique fabric, that the stitch line will be on that applique fabric. And I am going to tell it to create an outline. Now, I just want one outline, and I want it at 0 spacing. And I'm going to say, okay. Now, when I do that, I'm going to take that outline, and I am going to make it bigger. I'm going to make it 1/2 inch bigger. So since this is maintain aspect ratio, I can do this at 4 inches, and it will change the height and width proportionately. Now, oops, unbelievable. Undo is our best friend. I forgot I selected everything. I just want my artwork line. Let me grab my artwork line. There we go. I'm going to take the artwork line, and with that, I'm going to make it larger. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to make it 1/2 inch larger, right? If we want a 1/4 of an inch on each side, we're going to do 1/2 inch. So instead of being 3.75, it'll be 4.25. That gave me that 1/2 inch I want. Okay, so I'm going to apply that. Now, do you see how I have that nice border? because when it comes back, I'm going to pre-cut my blackboard fabric out here. But when it stitches it down, it's going to stitch in here, and it's going to have that nice pretty border with all those sharp pieces all done perfect. So that way it's not me and that pair of scissors. You could also cut your stitch in shape this way using the larger line. Just an idea. Now, when we've got this, of course, now I don't want the inside line. I'm going to delete it. That outside line is still artwork. See that? So I'm going to turn it into stitches. Down at your bottom left-hand corner, I'm just going to make that a straight stitch. There we go. And now I'm going to save it. File, save as. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down my menu and I'm going to save this as an SVG file. There you go. And I will name it small sign cut file. And that will have that so I can take it to my digital cutter and cut it out. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and stop sharing this. And let me come back over to my Zoom here. Oh, let me come on Zoom. All right. I don't know why this is crazy, but hang on. I'm having a little bit of a Zoom issue here. There it is. Oh, good. I'm back. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the machine and stitch out our lesson. Let me get over to our other camera. There we go. Okay. So here what we're doing is we are going to take and hoop. Now, it is recommended by the designer that we use, having trouble with my computer here, that we use medium tearaway. However, I like to make things as easy as possible. So you certainly can use medium tearaway. But what I have put in our hoop here, this is Floriani wet and gone tacky, which means it's sticky, but it's totally water soluble. The reason being, and I'll show you why I liked this. Do you see this where I have torn away from this sign? No matter what I do, there's still stabilizer hairs sticking out from that medium tearaway. And those are almost, and you can keep trimming and trimming, and it just gets crazy. So if I use wet and gone tacky, this is water soluble. Once I trim and cut out, I can just run a sponge around the edge and I'll have beautiful, clean, crisp edges. Now it has a protective paper on the top. I take a T-pin, I'm going to score it, and I'm going to pull it away, and I'm going to create a tacky surface. So there's my tacky surface, which also means my stuff will stick to it, which is nice. Get this out here. There we go. All right. Now we're going to place this on the machine. So let's go ahead and place this up on the machine. There we go. And I'll get my camera where we can see that real good. There we go. And now the first thing it tells me to do is it tells me to stitch out the placement line. So that's what we're going to do. Let me make sure we are in the right place. So it's nice to know you're correct. There we go. There we go. Okay. So this is going to stitch out the placement line to place our stitch and shape down. We have cut a piece of stitch and shape. That's our heavy, she tells us that we need to put some kind of, stiffness in there. So she uses stiff interfacing. You can't beat stitch and shape because it's meant to be stitched through. It doesn't have a memory. It washes, dries, and holds up. So don't just use a stiff interfacing or your signs aren't going to last because we all know things get dirty. So now it's stitched out my little shape there. And it's stitching out the placement line for my ribbon. So now we're going to place our ribbon in there. And I'm just going to come around and I'm just going to do it right here. And I use the rickrack. I think the rickrack looks cool with this because I've used some watermelon fabric and I made mine kind of long because I put it around those big necks on those jars. So there we go. Those are nice and stuck down. Now see, I didn't need to add tape or anything because my Wet and Gone Tacky holds that for me. So now with that there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my, she tells me to place my stitch and shade down. And again, this is going to stick. Now I'm going to also place my top fabric. Now what I did with my fabrics is my top and back fabric, I backed them. I ironed on Quilter Select Apple stick. One side's fusible, so it fuses to the back. Then you peel this away. And again, you're going to use a T-pin, and I just kind of scratch in the middle and I peel it away to expose the tacky. So I'm going to take this with it all peeled away and all sticky, and I'm going to center that right over the top of my stitch and shade. So now we're going to put our foot down and we are going to stitch out our next placement line. Now this is the placement line that we're going to put our blackboard fabric over. Now if you were doing it with her lettering and you were using fabric, you'd put your fabric down, then you would stitch out your lettering. Remember, we have no lettering. Now with this done, I am going to actually change the thread here because I'm stitching on blackboard fabric and I don't want black thread on blackboard fabric. And I wanted to use black on the white so that you could see it easily on video. We find that video isn't as good as real life always. So here we go. And here we are. So now I'm going to place my blackboard fabric in there. Now, like I say, normally, if it were up to me, I would have cut that out on my digital cutter. And I have one cut on the digital cutter, just so you can see. See how nicely that is on the digital cutter? And again, I put apple stick on the back so I could stick it down. But we're going to do it her way. And we're going to go ahead and stitch this out. Now, normally you would stitch this down. Then you would be doing your lettering. So always remember, I'm skipping the lettering. And I love this blackboard fabric, and I use the blackboard, the pins, and they're so cool. And see, now I'm going to need to trim 1/4 inch outside that with a pair of scissors, which I'm going to show you the scissors you're going to use for something like that. And you just leave a little border about 1/4 inch around the edge. So that will finish pretty quickly. Then we will remove it from the machine, trim it, and then we will put our backing on. And that's all there is to it. How cool is this? Okay, so now if you were using one of her designs, the next thing you would do is stitch out her lettering. So we're not doing lettering. So I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to trim. Now, trimming. Let me tell you, on this trimming, you want to use, no, let me see if I can put this in a different place so you can see it better. These are Quilter Select Applique Wave Scissors. They have a little bill and really pointed. They are so awesome to trim with. And the best thing, we have right or left-handed. So as you can see, these are easy to work with. So it makes it easy when you do have to trim like this in the hoop. See how nice that is, how easy those go out, those are to trim around things. I love them. These are my favorite pair of scissors that is in our R&K family. These are my favorite ones. They are so versatile. And like I said, we have right or left-handed. So we have it for everybody. You got to remember, the person that's responsible for creating this stuff is Alex Anderson. And she does the Quilter Select line. And since she is left-handed, she's always thinking. Righties don't always think about lefties. There we go. This is not the coolest little project. And we'll come back and put our fabric on the back. And when I tell you I'm going to use these pins, I'll show you. Oh, my hair. I didn't realize my hair was in the way. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know how to get that where it looks better on the camera for you guys. There we go. There we go. And I will like clean this one up a little bit. But you got it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over on the back. And again, I've got that scored paper and I'm going to remove this. Now, normally I would have to tape this to the back and hope my tape didn't roll up and all the good stuff that happens. Well, with this, because it's tacky, and again, this is Quilter Select Applistick. There we go. I'm going to stick this down, covering those placement lines. How cool is that? That is so awesome not to have to mess with that. So now I don't have to worry about it falling off, not catching, all those good things. And I'm going to put this on and I'm going to tell it to finish. So there we go. Now it's going to stitch around the edge and finish for us. Now, when I trim this one, I'm going to be trimming through the stitch and shape, the top and the back fabric. But be careful when you come to trimming, when you trim the front and trim the back, make sure that you trim the front and back separately where your ribbon is connected or you'll cut your ribbon off. I can tell you that from personal experience. My welcome sign has no ribbon on it. And there we go. How cool is this? So let's go ahead and pull this off our machine. And again, we're going to look at trimming. Let me see if I can get, my problem is this captions. Oh, there. That's how I beat the captions. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take it out of the hoop because that'll be easier for me. Take this out of the hoop. Back to the hoop because it's got that sticky on it. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to come now and we're going to trim around this. Now, be careful here. I'm going to lift it up when I trim here, right? Because we don't want to cut through our, we're going to do the front and back separate. in this area, so that we don't cut through our ribbon. And I'll get back and trim it easier. There we go. So you can see how we're going to do this. And these scissors make life so much easier. Now, I don't want to cut my ribbon off, so this is where I'm going to start being careful. I'm going to cut that ribbon. Since I've already done it once, I already know how awful it is to realize you don't have ribbon anymore. And we're going to do the same with the back at that top. Now, the rest of it's easy because we're only having to worry about that one top place. Now again, she used tearaway. I'm not using tearaway. I'm using Wet and Gone Tacky. I also used Apple-Stick, Quilter Select Apple-Stick, because those things just make it a little bit easier. And I'm all about easy. And the look is going to be so much better. Now, we've got to get the back done here. Same thing. I don't want to cut through my ribbon. So I'm just going to very carefully here. Come back and trim that stitching shape as well. There we go. Now, how cool is that? Isn't that the cutest little thing? And see, and I use these type of markers that I can use, those chalk markers, and then you can erase them and put something else. So this is Sew Me a Sign by Pickle Pie. I hope you've really enjoyed this project. I hope you can think of lots of good ideas. Make some, do some of your own thoughts, some of your own sayings, because with removing that bless our home, you can use the Floriani lettering and put Kathy's room, or put, you know, Bailey's luggage. You can make these small, you can make them large. How cool is this? Hope you enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you next month. Bye-bye.